Buenos días. Hola, mi nombre es Rosy y junto a mi compa Catalina, Yaya y Vida Silvestre formamos parte del equipo de justicia del lenguaje para esta conferencia.
Hello, my name is Rosy, and together with Catalina, Yaya, and Vida Silvestre, we form part of the language justice team for this conference.
El equipo de NISOC se ha comprometido a la justicia del lenguaje y esta porción será bilingüe e interpretada de español al inglés y de inglés al español.
NISAG is committed to language justice, and this portion will be bilingual and interpreted from Spanish to English and English to Spanish.
La función de interpretación ya está activada.
The interpretation function has already been activated.
Para acceder a la función desde su computadora, busque el globo en la parte inferior de su pantalla y elija interpretación de idiomas y luego seleccionar su canal.
To access the interpretation function from your computer, you'll find the globe at the bottom of your screen and choose Language Interpretation. Then select your language channel.
Para acceder a la función desde su teléfono o tableta, busque los 3 puntos en la parte inferior de su pantalla y toque más. Luego, interpretación de idiomas, seleccione su canal de idiomas y toque finalizar. Este último paso es el que activa la función.
To access the interpretation function from your phone or tablet, find the 3 dots on the bottom of your screen and select More. Then Language Interpretation, select your language channel and click Done. This last step is what activates the function.
Toda persona debe elegir un canal de interpretación a no ser que entiendan ambos idiomas, inglés y español.
Everyone should choose a language channel unless you fully understand both English and Spanish.
Si tiene alguna dificultad accediendo a la función de interpretación, por favor mandarle un mensaje a Shia por el chat y le ayudarán a resolverlo.
If you're having any issues with accessing the interpretation function, please send a chat message to Shia and they will support in resolving any issues.
Ahora vamos a verificar los canales de interpretación.
Now we're going to test the language channels. We'll start with simultaneous interpretation.
Si me están escuchando en este momento en español, deberían estar escuchando la interpretación en inglés por Cata. Nos pueden dar thumbs up, nos pueden dar pulgar arriba para dejarnos saber que están escuchando el canal de inglés. Ahora vamos a tratar el canal de español. If you're hearing me now, you should be hearing the interpretation in Spanish. Let me know that you can hear Cata loud and clear. You can give us thumbs up to make sure that you are able to hear the interpretation in Spanish, in the Spanish channel. Crear espacios multilingües es un esfuerzo colectivo y se hace aún más importante en espacios agrícolas, donde sabemos que la mayoría de las personas que sostienen nuestro sistema alimentario hablan múltiples idiomas. Les invitamos a poner en el chat todos los idiomas presentes acá para nombrar, honrar y reconocer que nuestras comunidades son multilingües. Estas son algunas maneras que todos podemos apoyar el compromiso a la justicia del lenguaje durante esta reunión. Un momentito, por favor. Por favor, digan su nombre antes de hablar. Las personas escuchando la interpretación no siempre pueden darse cuenta cuando el hablante ha cambiado. El hablante ha cambiado. Sus comentarios en el chat serán traducidos en vivo por Yaya y Vida Silvestre. Si puede, por favor, hagan sus comentarios en inglés y español para que todos podamos acceder con más facilidad. Si no, por favor, hagan sus comentarios en el idioma de preferencia y asegurarse de añadir sus pronombres de género a su nombre. Por favor, recordarse de reseleccionar su canal de idioma al regresar de grupos pequeños. De vez en cuando necesitaremos comunicarnos con el hablante. Para no interrumpir la reunión, usaremos diferentes señales. Por ejemplo, hable más despacio. Y todos podemos practicar esta seña, hable más despacio. Hable más fuerte. Y todos podemos estar haciendo para poderle escuchar mejor, hable más fuerte. Un hablante a la vez. Si nos ven hacer esto, es para respirar, pausar o clarificar. Muy bien. También le queremos recordar de silenciar el micrófono cuando no están hablando. Finalmente, a los escuchantes del canal de interpretación en español, notarán que utilizamos terminaciones en E cuando refiriendo a una persona en vez del tradicional a o. Esto no es un error de pronunciación, sino una decisión deliberada para resistir el binario de género y construir la inclusividad de género. Cualquier problema con la interpretación, déjennos saber inmediatamente. Manden un mensaje por el chat. Gracias por su compromiso con la justicia del lenguaje y le pasamos el micrófono a nuestra anfitriona.
Is this my cue?
No, Ulum, you are up.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ulum Pixan, and I use she, her pronouns. And I'm in Grafton, Massachusetts, also the territory for Nipmuc and Massachusetts Sprayan Indians. And I am super excited to be here in our closing plenary. I just want to tell you a little bit about why I love NISOG. So I came to the NISOG board like probably almost a year. And it's many things that I love about it, but I think the part that is more important for me in my heart is the youth programming and the youth education. Because, you know, we all can be super excited about the work, but if we don't have the people that have the energy and have the knowledge of what could happen in their communities, we're lost. So I really love NISOG because they're centered into the youth work. And that's the reason I serve on the board. I have worked with youth organizations for a really long time. And now I'm in the portion of actually being in solidarity with youth and really in the commitment of following their lead. So with that, I'm committed to donating today. I will donate, $100 for this conference, and I hope all of this inspire all of you to donate. We set a goal for $400 for the plenary, so we have 1/4 of that with my donation, and I hope you guys can also donate and support the conference. So the donations that we have usually goes to the scholarship fund for the next conference. Usually this fund is used for mostly youth. So 1/3 of the people that attend this conference there's possible for them to attend because we have this scholarship fund. And also 25% of the fundraise during this annual appeal goes to an awardee. And I don't know if you guys were on Wednesday when the award was presented to, I know she had given me the name, Tarshire Battle. She won the mutual aid, or they, I don't know their pronouns, award. So I'm super excited to be here, and I hope you guys can donate. So I know Shia put how you can donate in the chat, and we will be monitoring that and celebrate it in the chat when somebody gives. And whatever amount is good for us, every little bit counts. And I hope you feel this work is important as much as I do. Have a good end of the conference.
Okay, Michael. Thank you, Ulum, for doing that pitch for us, and I hope folks can support. And Michael, you are up. I just need to find your little square so I can pin you.
Pin me, please. Hello, Nisog. I'm Michael Rosine, founder of the food hub Red Tomato. Nisog has been a really important place for me and for Red Tomato for a long time. It was Kate Larson, then Red Tomato's operation manager, who hired Angel Mendez in 2001 to be our warehouse manager. 2 years later, when Red Tomato gave up its warehouse and trucks in order to become a local produce distributor who didn't use our own physical assets, Angel was the only warehouse employee that we kept on staff. Over the coming dozen or so years, he had many different jobs until he became the operations manager, and then director of operations and finance, and then more recently, executive director. I still go to work at Red Tomato every day. Now I work for Angel. When I think back on how Angel rose to his current position, working long days at Red Tomato, and then simultaneously studying at night to become the first one in his family to earn a college degree, I see two threads woven together, kind of like a double helix. One thread is Angel always gets the job done. The second thread is he operates at work and in life in general from a place of love. And he's able to stay there, to keep operating from love when facing resistance and obstacles. One of my coworkers, Diane Rast, who's worked at Red Tomato with Angel for 20 years, put it this way in a conversation we had a couple days ago. He never ceases to amaze me and inspire me. There's always something more to learn about him. If I had to describe him, if I had to describe Angel in his new role, I'd say, this is Angel unplugged. He's holding nothing back. Please welcome to the podium, Luis Angel Mendez.
Thank you, Michael. Hi, everyone. My name is Angel Mendez. I am the executive director for a small organization named Red Tomato. Red Tomato is a nonprofit food hub that works with a network of 40 plus mid-sized family farms in the Northeast region. We bring farm fresh food from farms direct to wholesale and retail markets. I have been with this organization for 20 plus years and have worn many hats throughout my journey here, starting out as warehouse manager in 2001. I learned a great deal about agriculture and food systems here during my tenure. But what I want to share with you today is how I transformed or adapted my worldview to be able to navigate myself through the challenges, fear, and the feeling of being different than most of my colleagues and peers, and how these feelings challenge my progress. I will do this by sharing my personal journey with you. I am a city boy. I grew up in the inner city of Boston, Mass. To understand how I got here, to be in charge of an organization that works with farmers and distributes fabulous quality fruits and vegetables, well, you need to know some things about where I came from. I grew up in a small town in Boston called Jamaica Plain, and we lived in public housing until I was 17 years old. I have 3 older brothers, 2 half brothers on my father's side, and 1 full brother that grew up in the same apartment with me. My dad was around, in and out of our lives until I was about 10 years old. Then he left for good. My mother played the role of mom and dad for me and my brother, and she did it well. We celebrate my mom on both Mother's Day and Father's Day annually. She is our anchor, gives us strength and keeps us strong. I can go on and on telling you about how my mom raised us, but I have limited time, so I'll share some of the seeds that my mom planted in us early on. Sacrifice, to learn to let things go in order to achieve your goals. Nothing is gained without sacrifice. Avoid trouble. Stay away from places where you might get into trouble. Avoid them completely. Learning. I want you to study hard and learn as much as you can so that nobody can take advantage of you in this world, so that you can always stand up for yourself. She leaned hard on this one regularly to us. Love. Carry yourself with love and never make fun of someone else's shortcomings. Instead, try and lift them up. Help those in need as you can be there one day too. Problem solving. You don't have to solve every problem. Some things you might have to leave in the hands of God. Trust that He will make it right in the long run. Lastly, food. Share food and never deny anyone a plate of food. With these seeds planted in me, I began to shape my worldview. I was born in 1977, and by the early 90s, I was entering my teenage years. I was watching the internet come into play. Per Google, the internet was born January 1st, 1983. I spent my childhood outdoors playing or causing mischief in the courtyards and nearby community centers with my friends. If you lived in the inner city in the late 80s and early 90s, you know that gang violence was at its peak and the inner city streets were challenging. The stop and frisk by police was in play and they were taking full advantage of it. In our hometowns, we were searched and harassed weekly. But if we crossed over from Jamaica Plain to the more affluent town of Brookline for a bike ride, we were immediately rounded up and cornered by police and told to leave the town if we had no business there. As I moved into my teens, my environment was surrounded by guns, drugs, and undesirables. Growing up in this environment, I did little thinking of social change and more of hustle to get ahead and survive to stay alive. The cool thing in my environment was to show that you were advancing and moving in a forward direction, to get out of the hood someday. Almost everyone, including me, displayed our movements through materialistic items like expensive shoes, jewelry, cars, rims, and all the flashy things. For kids that grew up off of public assistance and public housing, this kind of pressure created irresistible temptations that did not always lead us to make the best choices. Everybody had hustle, whether that came in the form of stealing, selling fireworks, selling car parts, drugs, shoveling snow, almost anything readily available in order to acquire things and have that feeling of moving one step further out. Other than shoveling snow, these other options posed a shorter destiny, death or prison. When trouble came my way, I was lucky to have my older brothers who protected me and did not allow me to get too deep into anything as they wanted me to study. They said, "You are good in school, stick with it. We will take care of anything else." In the streets, we learned, don't ever sleep and keep your head on swivel at all times. In other words, remain attentive to your surroundings and always watch your back. Our options for success were either you're a good athlete, become a rapper or musician, or hit the books and go hard in school. When I turned 20 years of age, my first son, Angel Mendez Jr., was born. It was time to stop running amok and get serious. Angel's birth in 1997 was a major event that catapulted me into the workforce, and I sacrificed my 20s with friends to focus on work and school as my way out of the hood. I went to work full-time to be able to pay for night school and support my family. When I entered the workforce in 1997, I was not sure what skills I could thrive on. My brother had taught me how to organize things well and work with my hands. So I started working in warehousing from 1997 to 2000. I worked for Boston Baby Superstores and ended up at TVI, a rag clothing warehouse. I dabbled in school as I was trying to figure out my major. The warehouse work that I had performed to this point was more labor intensive, and I was siloed to my role within these companies and performed labor work, like moving boxes, driving forklifts, and hand loading trailers. In the warehouses, most of my peers looked like, talked like, and probably grew up similar to me. This was comfortable for me. But we all know that the real work happens when we feel the most uncomfortable. In 2001, I started working with Red Tomato as warehouse manager. This job was different than the other warehouses I worked. This was a social change organization with a warehouse focused on small farm viability in the Northeast region. RT has always been a small team of 8 to 10 staff. Therefore, during the startup years, we all wore many hats. We're all included in all of the planning processes and various discussions in the buildup of Red Tomato. I suddenly found myself in unfamiliar places where I did not know the rules and felt totally different than my peers. There I was, my first day on the job, a city boy wearing a white tee, black jeans, and a fitted baseball cap, straight from the streets to sustainable agriculture. My worldview has been formed through my experiences until now. The experiences of my past, my worldview has been formed through my experiences until now. The experiences of my past carried a lot of pain around inequities, injustices, and systemic racism. This created these mental models in my head. A mental model is an explanation of someone's inner thought process about how something works in the real world. Mental models play an important role in our brains and relate to the way we perceive or see the world around us and are based on belief as opposed to factual concepts.
Perdón, Angel, I don't mean to interrupt your storytelling. It's so touching, and I really want to make sure that our team can really render this into Spanish for the folks listening in interpretation channel. Do you mind just slowing down a little bit? There's so much richness in what you're sharing.
Sure. Thank you. I can't
Thank
see you,
you.
so thanks. All right. For example, so just back to mental models, because I want you to catch this point. Mental models play an important role in our brains and relate to mental models play an important role in our brains and relate to the way we perceive or see the world around us, and are based on belief as opposed to factual concepts. For example, when I mentioned earlier that taking a bike ride into the affluent town of Brookline, me and my friends were immediately rounded up by police and told to get out of town. The police officer's mental model of me and my friends were, these are a group of young Latinos from out of town on bikes. Latinos come here to steal or cause trouble, not just for a bike ride. This mental model in these officers may have been built through training or past experience, or something in his or her upbringing that influenced their worldview and has created this mental model in their brain. Makes it challenging for the officers to perceive us as a group of kids just having a fun, honest bike ride. At Red Tomato, being in unfamiliar territory created a sense of fear. Fear of being unworthy, feeling less than, feeling like my work was closely scrutinized. I needed to work harder than white staff to advance. My path forward seemed locked into a slower path. When I was given feedback in my early years that if only I could write better, I would be able to advance to a manager role. My mental models immediately perceived this as racism. Maybe it was, maybe it was not. But the mental models created by the pain experienced in my worldview would not let me see this or any other feedback like this any other way. These feelings awakened the warrior in me and reminded me constantly of the seeds that my mom planted in me early on. The more I felt challenged, the more I wanted to fight. At times, I felt like everyone was against me. I was not here to lose. Not only was this job an opportunity to get out of the hood, it was my career and my livelihood. I now had 2 sons to care for. Although these feelings and emotions felt true and so real, I learned to take ownership of the role my own mental models play on how I perceive things in the world, which contributed and felt like an enhancement to the pain and challenge. I am naturally a systems thinker, as I had to manage myself in different systems in my upbringing in order to get through. I grew up listening to hip hop, and one of my favorite rappers, still in my top 5 today, is Jay-Z. You will hear me refer to Jay-Z, to a few Jay-Z lines that influenced my worldview in this speech. One of them that stuck with me is, learn how to move in a room full of vultures. And I use this as a way to remind myself that I had to learn how to apply my street smarts to the workplace. In the inner city, we confronted our problems head on, as it was dangerous to leave problems lingering. This helped me with the fear factor in the workplace. I told myself, you are at the workplace. You have been through way more fear than anyone can give you here. No one here will actually cut you or draw blood. Don't be scared. Confront your fear. Lean into it. It's not harmful. But remember the room you were in, and that this confrontation looks different than what you're used to. Growing up with my head constantly on swivel, I could see everything. Bad energy, good energy. As I grew in the organization and facilitated meetings, my worldview made me feel like an imposter at times. From being in the environment that I grew up in, calling shots and making decisions in familiar territory, to now doing this in unfamiliar territory. I felt underestimated, undermined, undervalued a lot of the time. This experience has been an emotional roller coaster for me. Although I am a fighter, I was on my knees more than once as I worked through this. My journey here at Red Tomato has been filled with gratification from our accomplishments and the lessons learned from our failures. My personal journey as a Latino man transitioning into a predominantly white world has been an emotional roller coaster. At the beginning of my journey, I always felt like I was fighting for my spot, like I had to work harder to prove myself, my worthiness, earn my respect. Sometimes I feel like this today as executive director. Through conferences like this one, NESOG, Kellogg Foundation, NGFN, and their Food System Leadership Network lifted me back up when I was at my lowest. I was exposed to new ideas, new people, and I met other people of color in various sectors of the movement. People wanted to hear what I had to say about food systems work and our experiences, which reassured me that my work was worthy. Seeing the lack of color in the audience gave me a new meaning for my existence in this movement, refueled my inner fighter. My mom raised us Catholic with a strong belief and faith in God. Coming back from the conferences, I felt renewed as I told myself, I am here for a reason. God put me here to carve the path into and forward for leaders of color to enter this movement. This feeling gave me a new purpose, a new fight, and I was back in the ring ready for another round. I studied and learned the science behind systems thinking, learned that what I called artificial barriers were actually mental models. And I learned about the 3 A's for managing stress and began to build my weapons for the war inside of my head. I used systems thinking to lean into things causing me stress and pain, ran every situation through the iceberg model. Picture a huge iceberg popping out of the water. Well, you could only see the top of that. Most of the iceberg is underwater. Most of the time we feel stress, we are so reactionary that we only see what is at the top of the iceberg. But we must dig deep to get to the core. Running this process, I could reassure myself that I clearly understood where the pain was coming from. Then I would run the issue through the 3 A's of managing stress for decision-making. Accept. Is what is causing my stress a situation that I cannot change or that seems unrealistic beyond my control to change? Am I able to accept and find a way that this works for me? Alter. Is there something in the situation that is causing me stress that I could change or address in order for it to work for me? Might there be a different way of looking or interacting with this situation that will work for me? Lastly, abort. Am I able to abort this situation? Is this not worth altering or accepting? And am I able to completely walk away from this? I used the 3 A's in my systems thinking to analyze everything that was causing me lots of stress. This was my way of confronting stress and dealing with my own mental models that were contributing to my stress and pain. When issues came up, instead of making judgment right away, I learned to breathe a little, sleep on things, and process them a little more. This allowed me to confront things in my head and clear brain space so that I could process things better and stay focused on my goals and outcomes. These new tools and way of thinking helped me understand a whole new way on how I could now fit in and how to move in this world. I began to see all bad energy as waste, so unnecessary and unproductive, and I began to take it all less personally. I realized I had more control over my life. and felt more and more comfortable in my own skin. I noticed that the original worldview that I had developed in my childhood was a way of hiding myself, making excuses, and blaming others for everything bad in the world. I remember when I discovered Brene Brown's TED Talk on vulnerability. I got all choked up because I learned that being emotional and vulnerable was not only okay, it was powerful. I added vulnerability to my toolkit and realized quickly how the power of vulnerability supported my lack of confidence. And I remember this feeling, feeling so good to be me. But being vulnerable and getting emotional does not tell you who I fully am. That pain that I described earlier is still here. And the worldview that I've acquired as a child has not been erased. It still haunts me. It still haunts me, informs me. It's a part of me. And now I'm trying to bring those healthy fruits and vegetables our region's farmers grow to communities like the one I grew up in. I also still have a fire burning deep down inside of me that feels like vengeance at times, that tells me that I have to share these lessons learned with you. This is the beginning and not the end for me. It has been great to share my story with you all. But this is the message that I want to leave you all with today. It's not about my personal story. It's about your personal stories. Some developed, and for our youth out there, it is still in development. Your difference is your power. Embrace it. I watched a Jay-Z interview with the New York Times where he explained how sometimes we don't notice each other's pain. Jay used the example that some of us in the inner city might be familiar with. When we were young, you might get into an altercation over looking at someone. It goes something like this. What you looking at? What you looking at? Then it escalates from there, and you think the fight is about looking at each other. But how he later realized that the person he was looking at was in pain, and him looking at them made them think he could see that pain, which creates the fear, and it escalates from there. Notice that. Don't go around wearing everyone else's pain. Understand the difference between compassion and empathy. When we are too empathetic, we tend to take on others' pain, and we need to be aware of this and understand when to practice one versus the other. Choose your fights carefully. Spend your energy where it is productive for you and the world we live in. For me now, it's not about being executive director. Although I love working at Red Tomato and with our family of farms and food systems work. Where I am now reminds me of the last Jay-Z quote I'll leave you with today. He said, Jay, how high is high enough until we eye to eye with the higher ups? This phrase was a driver for me when things got tough. Today, high enough for me is when communities like the one I grew up in have healthy, fresh food available in abundance. And when every kid that grows up like me can recognize how our worldviews create these mental models that can impact our ability to achieve our goals and dreams in both positive and negative ways. My hope is that this awareness will help you control your mind, navigate yourself through unfamiliar spaces, and lastly, recognize and embrace your power. Diversity is power. What's high enough for you? I want you to go after that. And remember, you can be on that journey being who you really are, being yourself, embrace your differences, embrace your power. I want to see you all there. Thank you.
I would love it if folks could come off mute and give Angel some love and just appreciate the bravery and vulnerability that it took for him to put this talk together. So if people could come off mute or share love in the chat, I think that would really help close this talk out.
Thank you, Angel.
Thank you, Angel. That was incredible.
Lot of love.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow.
Angel.
Bravo.
So grateful.
Gracias a ti y gracias a tu mami.
Thank you.
Easy.
Angel. I'm gonna cry too. The thing about you is like you go with everybody for the rest of their lives once they meet you. That's how powerful you were from the very beginning. Is that you're in everybody's heart to meet you for the rest of their lives. You know that. So I'm absolutely so thankful to have you in my life. It was a lucky day for me and for Red Tomato. I actually was just telling the story to somebody about knowing you in the parking lot and seeing this like twinkle and energy coming from you. And then we got to know each other and then you came into our worlds. We're luckier and better and stronger knowing you. I love you.
I love you back. Thank you.
You're the bomb.
Thanks, Angel.
You are the bomb, man.
Thanks, MC.
Angel, I just wanted to recall the time that you and I drove in a car together to meet with a client, and we drove through the hood and a police car came up next to us at a red light, and I waved because that's what you do. And you looked at me like, what are you doing? And that's when you explained how many times you've been stopped driving while brown. And it was a shocker because I didn't live in that world. And you've been a source of inspiration since the day I met you, and you will be until the day I die.
You know how much I care about you, Kate. Thank you. It's great to see you here.
I can't wait to share all of this with the young people I work with in Poughkeepsie. Thank you.
Yes, and you know what? And this has been this session is being recorded, so you can actually, share it and right from, I think, your voice, Angel, and sharing your story. So powerful, and we're all like, I'm looking around at everyone here is crying. Angel, you got us all crying. Thanks so much.
I thought I was going to be able to do it without holding back, but it's so real.
Oh, it's so beautiful and so healing, and we can't wait for the book. We're behind you, and so grateful. Does anybody else want to share with Angel before we transition into our next segment?
Brene Brown.
Oh, there's Kate.
Brene Brown's got nothing on you, Angel.
It's so great to see you, Kate.
Oh my
I
God.
miss you, love you.
So much.
Thank you.
We'll talk after this.
Just so grateful to work with you, Angel. All the love. It's
Likewise with
best.
all of you and all the familiar faces and all the people that kept me up by seeing us all still in this fight together at all these conferences. And these leadership networks and the Food System Leadership Network is I recommend that everybody in this movement find some time to spend some time and tap into these resources. These are the things that really, really help me keep going and still do today. And so I really, really appreciate the space to just start the healing for myself, but to also start to take my experiences and turn them into the change that I want to see in the world. Even if I hit a few of you, it's gonna help me feel good about myself and my work. So thank you.
Thank you so much. This is just the beginning, Angel. I mean, you are gonna make a huge change in the world, and this is just the beginning. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see where it goes. It's gonna be amazing. You are amazing. I'm so grateful for you. Now you can relax and go to some of the other sessions. Angel's been in almost, I keep seeing Angel all over the place in all these sessions. So this is awesome. We love you. We're so grateful for you. We have another full day of exciting programming. So in just a few minutes, we are going to have the Johnny Cake demo with Dr. Loren Spears. So I don't know if y'all got to see her last night. Another powerful keynote speech. She's an amazing woman, and I can't wait to learn how to make Johnny cakes. I got my maple syrup ready, so I'm like really excited. And then that's at 11, and at 12:30 we're going to have another networking session. So if you haven't been able to drop in any of the networking sessions, they've been really fun, and we're all getting to know each other a little bit more, and definitely making some connections. And then starting at 1 o'clock, we have our last session block. So we have 4 different beautiful sessions to choose from. Hope to see you there. And please, please do join our closing plenary at 3. That'll be from 3 to 5. We have some beautiful guests joining us. And you'll also get to get a little closer look at who we are as NESOG, and our staff and our board will all get a chance to say hello to you. So please do join us. And yeah, thanks for being here, everyone. We had a huge group today. It's been wonderful. We'll see you at 11 o'clock or some point today. Thank you all. Have a beautiful rest of your day. See you soon.
Malika, just real quick, wanting to announce that we are down to interpret the Johnny Cake demo. We are trying to make it happen. So if that is something that folks are interested in attending and participating in Spanish, por favor, únanse, que Michelle y nosotros lo vamos a hacer.
Oh, gracias. That's wonderful. Thank you, Endelyn. We'll see you all soon.